at BlizzCon 2014. This is our first interview of the day, early in the morning.
Yeah.
We're talking to.
I'm Dave Kozak. I'm the lead narrative designer for World of Warcraft.
Excellent. Dave, this is a huge time for you guys right now. This BlizzCon has been incredible.
This
You guys
has
have
been
announced
a spectacular BlizzCon
Yeah.
for us. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, you've announced so much. And next week,
Next week,
you're launching
Warlords
Warlords
is
of
hitting.
Draenor.
Yeah,
What's the vibe like at the office right now?
It's absolutely crazy. We have we play Heroes of the Storm at lunchtime, and then we fix bugs, and then we're getting ready, and we're watching the forums, we're watching the feedback. It feels like everything is happening at once. So it's a really crazy time for Blizzard. Yeah.
Definitely. And sort of as the lead narrative designer, Warlords is kind of an important expansion for you guys because you're kind of going back.
Absolutely.
You're reincorporating very important elements of World of Warcraft's history into Warlords of Draenor. So what was sort of the impetus for that? What was the driving force behind this decision?
We always want to kind of mix in new things and keep the franchise alive and going, but always kind of stay to our roots. So Mist of Pandaria was very intentionally like this beautiful sort of vacation, like this kind of exploration of a strange new land, because then we knew we were going to go dark with the next expansion. So this expansion, like we said last year, very savage, very dark, and it also goes right back to the core of Warcraft's roots. And gives people a chance to really explore some of these characters that were in the RTS games back in the day, but now you get to really kind of interact with them. And so we set up an intro where you get to really meet all of the warlords in the Tanan jungles, and you zoom in the camera on them, get to really see these guys, meet these guys, and then one by one, you're going to go through the expansion, really trying to take these guys out. And what I love about this idea is so often Azeroth is getting attacked and we're fighting, but this time we're proactive. We start by going through the portal. It's like Beyond the Dark portal all over again. We're on the offensive. The Alliance and Horde are going to another world to kick some ass and really just claim that place. And everything about the expansion is about going to this savage world and claiming it, building a garrison, building up a floor, everything about it. So it really feels like we're going right back to the roots of the franchise, which is nice. I love that we do both with World of Warcraft. We can incorporate new stuff and then come back to the core. Yeah.
Definitely. When I was playing the beta, one of the biggest things that I noticed is the scale of Warlords of Draenor, because I think about like Wrath of the Lich King. You sort of have this central figure of Arthas, and he's this imposing guy that constantly shows up throughout the story of Wrath of the Lich King. And then you have Cataclysm, where Deathwing is this ginormous, imposing threat. And with Warlords, it feels like you're building an army to take on an army. Yes. And how do you guys accomplish that? How do you sort of make it so when you're going through it, it's not overwhelming, but you still get that sense of like you're leading the charge?
Yeah, leading, that's the effective word. We wanted you to feel like, hey, I've already leveled up to level 90. Now I should be kind of in command of things. And so we really worked for that feeling. I love that you said you're building an army to take on an army, because we really tried to show that in everything you do. You start, your garrison starts as a tiny, a little fort with a wooden palisade. And like Warcraft 3, you get to build up a big base, and we really wanted to feel that you were constantly building, and so you get more and more followers, there's more and more people wandering around your base, so you get that feeling, like you said, of having a big army. And we wanted to give you abilities throughout every zone that makes you feel like you're in command, you're calling the shots. One of the first buildings you build is the barracks, and you get a nice button on your screen that just calls in the troops, and then you get a fleet of guys coming in and firing magic spells and archery and everything, and it feels good. It feels like you're the commander. Like at this point, you've really leveled up, and we reinforce it. All the NPCs, they call you commander. At one point, Varian or Vol'jin, your leaders of your factions, will say like, General, you've done a great job building our fort. So we want you to feel like you're the tip of the spear, leading this charge.
Definitely, and the garrisons are really kind of a perfect base of operations, because as you're kind of expanding across this continent, you see your army grow and you become more powerful in ways that you never could in Warcraft before. But at the same time, I know a lot of people, myself included, kind of initially, upon that first announcement, viewed garrisons as sort of housing, I guess, as a sort of personalization. Right. And there was that quote that you guys didn't want Warcraft to be The Sims, but I at the same time, I feel like there are a lot of people who would like some of those elements. Is that something that were garrisons originally that, and then did you change it, or is that something you're looking at putting in the future?
Well, we always want it to be about the gameplay, and so that was really important to us. That it's not about sort of customizing your wall hangings. It's really about what sort of buildings do I build to impact my gameplay, and that's really what the impetus was. One thing we learned from Pandaria was the farm just giving you and that was just a hunk of dirt about the size of this room. Even giving you a little chunk of land that you get to make decisions with is kind of cool, and so that we really kind of gave us some confidence, like, oh, we can build some gameplay around a whole fortress and really build the gameplay in. Something that we did, and as we were building the expansion, we felt like the garrison was a little too separate from everything else that was going on. So when you're out in these other zones, we wanted you to still feel connected to your garrison. So that's when we started building these outposts in all the other zones. So aside from building your garrison and making decisions there, every time you go to a zone, there's some sort of outpost that you're building. You know, you go to Gorgrond and you can build the arena, or I think there's a Shredder workshop, I think. You make that decision there, and then your guys you're in command. You make the call. The guys are building stuff, and then that affects how you play the zone. In fact, in Gorgrond, it kind of completely changes the zone depending on what you want to build. But it gives you powers in that zone, and then there's also max level content in every zone. So all the decisions you made during level up now affect when you go to all those zones. I can't even remember your original question. I just get so excited about garrisons, but we really wanted to build that story into the whole expansion, that whole experience.
A little more on garrisons. You know, it's so narrative driven that it has such an impact on the story. Will there be anything to connect it to PvP or arena or battlegrounds or maybe a new type of PvP with garrisons?
Not necessarily. We really wanted garrisons to be sort of your footprint, your home base on the world. Our PvP, we really centered around Ashran in this expansion, and I don't know if you got a chance to play Ashran in the beta. We're really excited. In a lot of ways, that's very experimental for us. So we don't know what quite will happen with Ashran. It's another world PvP zone, but you can use a lot of trinkets that you can build in the garrison. I mean, my favorite is the nuke. You can drop the nuke on Ashran. Which is just as exciting as it says, just as crazy as it sounds. We have no idea how that will play out. So we're really going to be experimenting with Ashran quite a bit. But we're excited about it because in the beta we had a lot of players in there, and there was an ebb and flow of battle. It felt really, really strong. So we're excited about Ashran.
Sounds like the Wild West.
It is the Wild West. Yeah, get your boots and your guns out for Ashran. But one thing you did say about the narrative, there's also, when you get to level 100 and you sort of get to your level 3 garrison, then there's also these what we call chapter quests, which are a lot like the in patch 5.1 in Pandaria. You know, there was this kind of ongoing story after the fleet landed, and every couple of days you get a little more piece of story. It's like that with your garrison. We're gonna explore. We're gonna find another one of the. We're gonna take down the Burning Blade War Chiefess. And so there's kind of a build up to that conflict, and that's kind of happens sort of every week in your garrison. You might see a new quest, and that a little story will evolve, and then of course throughout the patches we'll continue evolving the story. Yeah.
So sometimes there are a lot of games that I have to review, and I can't pay as much attention to World of Warcraft as I would like to. So what I do is I regularly go on the WoW forums. I just want to see what the conversation is, what people are saying, what the vibe of the game is at the moment. And I don't necessarily agree with this sentiment, but I'm curious to hear your answer. Sometimes I see a decent amount of negativity. You know, they're going back. We're fighting orcs again. This is well-worn territory. So to people that would maybe have that comment, what would you say to them? How is this conflict in Warlords of Draenor going to be reminiscent, but different at the same time?
Right. Well, I think it's valid, but you know, at the end of the day, Warcraft is all about. Orcs versus humans is sort of the core of the franchise, and from the very first box cover of the first Warcraft game, you know, that's what it's all about. So we're going to see a lot of orcs and humans. That's really what everything revolves around. But I think once they step into Draenor, you'll see that there's a whole lot more going on here. One of the things I'm most excited about is our story about the Draenei. The Draenei, you know, for a few years now, we haven't really been able to tell good Draenei stories. And even in Burning Crusade, what we saw of the Draenei was the few survivors of this horrible sort of cataclysm on Draenor. But here we get to see their civilization. I don't want to say at its height because that was on Argus, but we get to see what kind of world the Draenei would build. They've been here a couple hundred years. You could see Shatrath kind of in all its glory. You get to see the Temple of Karabor before it was the Black Temple, and you get to really see, well, who were the Draenei? What were they like? What values did they have? How did they feel about their exile? You know, it's not all one-sided. There's a lot going on there. And then you get to learn about all these other cultures that are going on. We get to see the Arakoa before they were sort of broken and hunched over. Like, what was the Arakoa civilization like? Spoiler, they're dicks. They're terrible people. Yeah. But anyway, we get to see that. We get to explore just sort of the ecology of this world and how the elements interacted, and even what orcs were like before they drank the demon blood and became berserker warriors that we know. So there's really a lot of texture. There's a lot going on here. There's a whole world to explore that's more than just orcs. But if you like beating orcs up, there's a lot of orcs to beat up.
I'm glad you're bringing these things up, perspectives that you have been missing in Warcraft. You get to see in Warlords of Draenor. And the other thing that I was really impressed with, probably my favorite element of the beta thus far that I've played, is a lot of the quests that I was doing felt more personal than they have in almost any other expansion. Like, it wasn't a lot of, okay, I go to this person, they're sending me off, I do the thing. There's definitely that as well, but a lot of times I would do a quest, those characters would come with me. They would have an arc. Yeah. Even if I wasn't aware of all the minutia going on, I could get attached to these personal stories.
That was a decision early on. We thought, like, well, let's take a couple of key characters and really show them throughout the expansion. One of my favorites clearly is Uriel. She's a Draenei, and with her story, we get to tell what's it like for your average Draenei on the streets that's suddenly faced with this kind of thing, and how do they respond to this sudden attack when their whole world is turned upside down? And Uriel is like, she rises to the occasion, and so sort of from an everyday kind of background, she kind of becomes this epic hero. So I think people can relate to that. It's a really fun story. You get to see Uriel throughout the expansion, suffer through some losses and find her bearing and really take charge. And it's fun to see that character arc, which also kind of helps reflect on you, the player, the hero, and your own arc as you're a veteran coming to this place, building up a fortress and inspiring all these people to fight. We do. We try and give it that personal touch, and I'm glad that that's coming across in the beta. That's good. That's good to know. Yeah.
I cannot wait.
Well, Dave, thanks for your time, and I can't believe that I get to play it next week.
Next week, it's happening. It's like right here. How often do you come to a BlizzCon and we're like, yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Dave, I love it, but it's going to ruin my life.
Hey, that's what I like to. No, I don't like to hear that. But yeah.
Thanks for your time.
Great. Thank you very much.